As an Angular developer, you should know the 5 different ways of passing variables from one component to another. And we have the parent-child, we have the child-parent, which is event emitter, then we have state variable, we have URL parameter, and we have service. So these 5 methods of passing variables across is very important for you to know because you need to choose which one is very easy or easier for you. For me personally, I use service. That is what I use and that is what is easy for me. But for you, I don't know. And that is why I've outlined these 5 methods, and let's go through them step by step. And if you know these 5 different methods, you'll be able to understand how applications, Angular applications, are architected, if I got it right. So let's do it now. And I've created a step by step in my website. I've also created a simple demo application, not demo application, but the setup we are going to be using, and we are going to be starting right now from the first part. So we have parent-child, that's the first one. Part 1 is parent-child. Let's now do it. If you are joining for the first time, I'll recommend you subscribe so that you don't miss any update, and when I make new lessons, you get notified. So we have a variable in the child, for instance. For now, I just set up the routing. I can go to the parent. This is parent, go back home, go to the child. This is child, go back home. And I've set up the routing. Let me just clear this place. Okay, so this is basic routing I've set up. Give me 1 second. Okay. So let me just show you what is happening here. For now, this is just an empty application. So let's go to the parent because now we want to do parent-child. Let's assume we have a variable in the parent component. So let me just kind of shift this backwards a little bit. Again, this is a step-by-step right in my website. If you want to follow it, please feel free. To get to my website, just go to Google and type Kyneton the Genius. It takes you to my website, and just go to the first one and it opens up my website. Simply scroll down to the latest what I wrote. You see I wrote this recently and you can see where we are is right here. So let's go to continue. So we are doing the first one, parent to child. So if you have a component embedded in another component, for now these are 2 components that are different. They are not parent-child right now. So let's embed this child into the parent. So let's go to the child component. This is the child component. It's a HTML. For now nothing is there, and this is sorry, I'm going to take out this because this is part of it. So this is basically how it is. So for now, let's embed this child component into the parent. So I'm going to the parent. Okay, so to embed this child component, I'm going to simply say here app child, and that's all. I've embedded it. Now if I display the parent, it's also going to show the child. So I'm going to save everything and I'm going to do ng-serve, and let's see that this child component is now embedded into the parent. All right, so if I go back here to refresh the page, if I go to the parent now, you can see parent has child component embedded. Let's now go to pass a variable from parent to child. So let's say we have this parent. I have a variable I want to pass. I want to call it variable to pass. Or let's call it hello. Let's just call it hello. Is equal to hello from your child. So there is a variable I want to pass onto the child component. If you look at my website, there is a step-by-step, and I think I should follow it. Now this variable you want to pass, I can actually initialize it here using an input. Let me see. Yeah. So this is input. This is the parent. So this variable, we are talking about parent to child. Yeah. So this is the variable we want to pass to the child component. That is fine. Now in the child component, you should be able to receive this variable because now we are in the parent. And to receive this variable in the child component, you need an input. You need to input it into the child. So we need a variable called that is annotated with input annotation in the child component like so. So I'm going to say input. Let me call it received. Let's just call it received, and it's going to be a string. All right. For now, this input, is going to be a call like this. For now, this input is empty. It has not received anything. So I'm going to console log it. So I'm going to say console.log received. So if I run this application and go to the parent, if I look at my console, it will be undefined because it has not received anything. So let me just go back to the application, and I'm going to inspect. Permit me to just use a different window for this. Okay, so I'm going to my console, and now you can see undefined. Let me just go back home, go back to the parent. It's undefined. The child has not received anything, so it's undefined. So let's get back here. So for you to pass this variable now from parent to child, you need to use received is equal to sent. What do I mean? You have child variable is equal to parent variable. That's what you are going to put in the markup in the parent component HTML. So let's go to the parent component HTML. It should be here. So at this point, when you are displaying the child, you need to specify in the format received variable, which is what the variable we created in this child, equals the parent variable you want to send. It's as simple as that. So I'm going to say in square bracket, received is equal to so let me check the name in the parent. So the name is hello. Sorry, I got it. I mistaked it. So received is equal to hello. At this point, we have sent it. So if I save everything and go back to check, so you can see hello from your child. Let me just make sure. So if I display parent now, you can see that the child receives hello from child. And if you look at that at the console as well, you can see the child component have received it and console logged it. Of course, you can also display it on the web page. For instance, you can just display it on the web page. So let me try to do that. In the child component, I'm going to simply display it on the web page. I'm going to say received. So at this point, it will be displayed on the web page. So I'm going to save everything, and I go back here. You can see hello from your child displayed by the child component. So this is how to pass from parent to child in Angular. I hope it's clear. And if not, please leave me a comment, and also please go through my website. And in the next part, we now look at passing from child to parent using event emitter. Please subscribe to my channel if this has been informative for you. So this part will be part 2 of passing variables between components in Angular. And in this case, we are going to be using passing variable from child to parent. In part 1, we pass from parent to child. This time will be from child to parent, and we are going to be using event emitter. I'm going to explain it at this point so that you can see. If you are joining for the first time, I recommend you subscribe, and also look at all the other ways to send variables across so that you choose which ones is easy for you. So we are talking about parent to child. So for now, I've set up just an empty application. So if I go to this place, you can just refresh. So this is the parent component. This is home. This is so this is using event emitter. So I'm going to go to child. This is child component. I'm going back home, parent component. So nothing is happening at this point. So we have a variable in the child component. We want to send it on to the parent component. So now I'm going to the child component. So this is my child component at this point. So let's say we have a variable we want to send onto the parent. Let me call it to send. So let me call it to send is equal to greetings from child. Okay. So this is a variable we want to send to the parent component. Now I've defined this variable in the child and we want to send it to the parent component. To be able to send a variable in the parent component, we need a function in the child component, or let's just say we need an event emitter. So this event emitter is like a vehicle to be used to send it, and it's a bit different from sending from parent to child. In child to parent, you need a vehicle which is like a function called which is of type event emitter. So let me create this vehicle. I'm just going to call it sender. For now, let me just yeah, I think everything should be fine. Okay, so I think I didn't declare this, so let me just permit me to just correct this. Let me just put this on a init method and declare to send here. To send is going to be string. All right, so to send, I assign it a value on the init method. So this is basic, okay? On the init method, I assign it a value. So we need a function to use to send this variable across. So what's happening is this function, which is an event emitter, is going to take this variable and send it to the parent. Even when the value changes, it's going to send it to the parent because the parent is going to be listening to when the value of this variable in the child changes. So I'm going to create another variable. I'm going to call it is sender. So that is the function that will actually do the sending, which is of type, which is an output variable. So we are outputting from child to parent at this point. So I'm going to call it sender is an event emitter. Now pay attention to this place because sometimes if you get it wrong, it's going to be a real problem. Event emitter, new event emitter. So yeah, so I think, yeah, so it's from the Angular core module. So it's going to be a code here like this. Okay. So how then do you send this variable? Is by simply saying if sender.emit. Okay, so I'm going to say in the sender.emit and emit that variable you want to send. So for now, the variable to send is to send. All right. So once you run sender.emit executes in the on init method, is going to grab that variable and send it. Okay, it emits it as it were. And the parent is going to be listening to this event, emit event. So I'm going to save everything. For now, the parent have not received it. So in the parent side, we need a receiver, which is a function that's going to actually receive this variable. So I'm going to go to the parent at this point, to the TS file, and I'm going to I need a function which is, I call it receiver. So it's going to be receiver. Sorry. Receiver is, why is this happening? Okay, so this, oh, sorry, I'm writing it in the wrong place. So it's not only init method, but it's a different function. All right, so this receiver is going to receive whatever is sent, received. Let me just call it event. It doesn't matter. You can give it any name. It's going to be a string. And whatever it receives, I want it to console log it, display it in the console. You can also display it in a web page. So I'm going to say console.log. And I'm going to say event. Okay. So once the parent receives, I want it to display it on a web page. Let's now complete the process. It's not complete yet. And finally, in the markup, in the parent component markup, we still have to do sender is equal to receiver. Remember we did something like that? So the markup is like this. Sender is equal to receiver right here on my website. So if I go to the parent component where you have the code where we embedded, oh, I've not embedded this child in the parent, so let's just do it. Okay, so save everything just to make sure that it's embedded in the parent. So if I go to parent, you can see the child is embedded, but no variable is received. So to receive, you have to say here in brackets sender equals receiver, and of course you have to specify parameter event. So the process is completed right now. So to summarize, we create a function in the parent which receive the event, which receive the variable, and we also create a function in the parent in the child that emits this variable, and this function in the child is an event emitter that emits a variable. And in the markup, we now say sender is equal to receiver, which are the two functions, not the two variables, but the two functions on both parent and child. So I'm going to save everything. I'm going to come back here. I'm going to first go home. Now I'm going to click on the parent, and now you can see greetings from child is displaying in the parent component. Let me just shift this a little bit. So you can see it right here displayed by the parent component in line 19 of the parent component. So if we go back to the parent component, in line 19 of the parent component, you can see right here, it's received it and displayed it on the console. So this is how to pass variable from child to parent using event emitter. There are 3 more we are going to still learn, so stay with me. And for now, let's take a break and then we continue on the next part. I remain Kind on the Tech Pro. If you are joining for the first time, please hit on the subscribe button. If you have challenges, let me know in the comment box below, and I'm always there for you. So there is a part 3 of how to send variables across components in Angular. And today we are going to be talking about an interesting one, which is using state variables. Now, what are state variables? They are just the data you want to send across from one component to another. And the first 2 parts, we talked about parent-child. We also talked about child-parent. But sometimes there may be components that are not parent-child, that is not embedded, that they are just siblings on the same level. So in this case, you can't use parent-child and child-parent. So we have to use 3 other methods. So today, let's see about routing or passing variable by states by using state variables. Now, what are state variables? I've mentioned these are variables or data you want to simply send when you are routing from one component to another. So that means you need a little bit of knowledge of routing, which I'm going to tell you about in this video. So for now, let's just see the basic setup. So this is a basic setup, routing by state variable. I can actually go home. So this is the home, and I can also go to child 1, and this is child 1 component, and I'm going to child 2 as well. This child 2. Those two. For now, this is basic application. Now, to be able to route between these 2 components, we have to use either a link or a button, which are triggered by button click. So you have to navigate by button click. So to do that, I'm going to go from child 1 to child 2. So let's go to child 1 first. So once when in child 1 a button is clicked, it's going to link or navigate to child 2, passing a variable across. So let's do that. From child 1, I'm going to simply add a button. Type is equal to button. Okay. Go to child 2. Okay, so this is a basic button I've added in child 1 that goes to child 2. Now, if I go to child 1, we can see this button right here, but nothing happens so far. We need to use a router to do the navigation, and to do that, go to stay on child 1, and let's use a router to, let's stay here. So this is the button. So we need a router in child 1, and we also need a function to actually do the navigation. So first I'm going to the constructor right here, and I'm going to create a router variable. private router. So this is the router that's going to help us to actually do the routing or navigation and also do the passing of variable across. And we also need a function that actually will that will run the navigation code that will actually write the navigate function. So let's call this function go to tool, and you simply say router.navigate. That's all, and you specify inside square bracket where you want to go. And in this case, we want to simply go to child 2. I'm going to save everything and let's see that it works. So if I click on go to 2, for some reason, so I need to add in the function, in the button click, I need to add the function, the event handler. So I'm going to say click is equal to go to 2. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to save everything, and now let's go to check it out. So if I click on go to 2, it goes to child 2. I can go back, go to 2, perfect. But now nothing is passed across to child 2. Let's now put in a state variable, or a variable as a state variable that we want to pass, or a state as some may call it. So in child 1, let's create one variable we would like to pass across. So I'm going to call it a variable private to send. It's going to be string. Okay, so it's going to be string. Okay, perfect. So in the init method, I'm going to assign it a value. I'm going to say to send is equal to hello from your sibling. All right, so this is a variable in child 1. We want to send it to child 2. So how do we send it? So while we are navigating to child 2, we need to now add a second parameter, which is actually the state, which will be this variable we want to send. So I'm going to say state. I need to open up the curly braces, state, and so you need to specify the data we want to send is going to be to send, right, like this. So I hope it's clear. So at this point, the states variable contains data, which is data to send, which is actually this hello from your sibling. So it's going to be received in the child 2 component. But how does it receive? How does it retrieve this variable from itself? Also, you can see we also have in my website, you need to use history.state. So I'm going to child 2 and I'm going to console log history.state on the init method. So I'm going to console log history.state, history.state. That's all. So this history.state now contains the variable that was sent from the child 1 to this place. So I'm going to save everything. Of course, take note that you can send any kind of variables, numbers, arrays, lists, observables, anything you want to send can be sent. But now I'm keeping it easy so that you don't miss anything. So why do we have this? Let's see. So okay, so he's putting in some things here. All right, so let's go back here. Let's stay with child 1. This child 1. All right. So I'm now navigating to child 2, and I hope child 2 will receive this variable and console log it on the console. So you can see right here. You can see console. The data is hello from your sibling, coming via navigation ID of 2 and is displayed by child 2 in its line 14. So play around by sending more data and see how you understand it better. You can also display this on the screen on the web page if you want. For now, I'm not going to do that, so to keep things easy. So this is how to pass variable from one component to another using state variable. So I'm going to stop here and move to the next part, which is actually using path parameters. So I want to thank you for viewing, and also remember to subscribe. And if you have any challenges, please leave me a comment and feel free to check my website to see the step-by-step. So in this part, this is the fourth way to send variable from component to another. And we are going to be talking about path parameter, or it's also called path param. So this is very basic, it's very common, and it's also been there for a long time. So basically you have this URL parameter, you have on your URL, you put some parameters there, but this you don't use often, but you use it, maybe you want to send an ID, you want to send some little, some very small chunks of data, you have to put it on the URL, and this is called the path param or URL parameter. All right, so how do we do this? I've done a basic setup of three component, child 1, child 2, and the home. So if I come here to refresh the page, you see home works. If I go to child 1, so this is child 1 and child 2. Okay, so this is a basic setup. So I have child 1 and 2 set up. So this is child 2 and this is child 1. Okay, I want to pass a parameter from child 1 to child 2 using URL parameter, and that variable we want it to be right here as URL parameter. Okay, how do we do that? Again, the step-by-step is right here on my website. Feel free to visit. Go to Google, type Kinds on the Genius, go to it's just my website. You now scroll down to I wrote it recently. Let me just show you. So if you just go to Google and type Kinds on the Genius, maybe I can just do that right here. If you go to Google and type Kinds on the Genius, it takes you here, and just go to my website right here. It opens up. Simply scroll down and go to I wrote it recently. You can see right here, and you see where we are right now. All right, so let's go back to continue. So how do we attach a path parameter to attach a path parameter to the URL when we are sending to another place? To do that, we are going to be using a router as well. So let's go to child 1. So this is child 1, and we want to add a button first that will actually do the navigation from child 1 to child 2. So let me go to child 1, the HTML, and let's just add a button that's going to do this. Type is equal to button, and I'm going to say go to child 2. All right, so these basically go to child 2, and I talked about this a little bit before. So you have in child 1, you have go to child 2. For now, nothing happens. To now make it go to child 2, so let's go to child 1 TS file, and we are going to use a router to actually do the navigation. So I'm going to add a router here. The router is from the router module. Okay, and I'm going to write, let's take all this, it can be private just to make things clean. All right, so I'm going to write a function here that says go to 2, and here I'm going to simply say router dot navigate and specify slash child 2. All right, so this does the navigation. I did this in the previous tutorial, so it should be clear with you. So if I go to child 1 and go and click here, oh no, I need to add the event in the button. So let me go to this button and say click equals go to 2, and that is fine. So let me save everything, and if I go now, click, it goes to child 2. But now, for now, we don't have anything in the URL, nothing sent. Let's do this. So in child 1, let's assume we have a variable we want to send. Let's call this from 1. Let's just call it from 1 is okay. Let me just say private from 1 is equal to welcome. Let's say hello from child 1. Hello from child 1. So we want this information to be available in the URL. Normally, you pass data like numbers or something without spaces. Okay, but for now, let's just do it. Okay, maybe you can just use a number for now. It has to be a string because it's URL string. So let's say this number 5 or 7. Now we want it to be attached to child2 like this. Okay, so I'm going to append it to child2 URL. So I'm going to simply say plus from 1. All right, like so. So now we also need to tell the router, the app routing module, that there's a variable being sent across. So I'm going to the app routing module right here, and in the path going to child2, I'm going to say that there's a variable being sent, and simply to do that, simply put the name, put a colon /colon and the name of the variable you want to send, like this. At this point, everything should be complete, and this variable should be available in child2. So let me save everything. And let's just go back to child1. So I can go to child2 right now, and that variable you can see in the URL right here, 7. Let me just show you that you can also send anything, not just a number. The challenges are when you use a string with spaces like this, then it's going to add some funny characters in between the spaces, which all right, so it will also work perfectly well. So I'm going to save everything, and let me just go back to child1 and go to child2, and you can see it is available right here. How do you grab this variable and use it on your page? Because now it's just in the URL. How do you grab this variable and use it on your page? Again, procedure is on my website, so please feel free to follow. To use this variable in child2, to grab this variable or to get hold of this variable in child2, we need the active route module. So I'm going to add active route. I'm going to declare it as just say private route is going to be of type active route. So this active route will help you to grab whatever URL parameter is in the URL. So let me just, on the init method, I'm going to just console log what is there. So how do you get it? You simply use route the snapshot, the params, the name of the parameter. So I'm going to say console.log route dot snapshot dot params dot from 1. So this will hold that variable that came from child1, and it will simply display on the console. So I would like to go back to child1 for now, and if I save everything, now if I go to child2 will receive and display that variable on the console. You can see it right here, hello from child, okay, displayed by child2 on each line 17. So that variable has been received in child2. All right, so this is how to send a path variable from one component to another using URL parameters. So in the next part, we'll now look at the last way to send variable across, and that is using a service. I'd like to thank you for viewing, subscribe to my channel, and also let me know if this has been informative for you. And let's move to the next part. So in this part, there's the last part. There's an interesting way to send variable across from one component to another, and that is using a service. I actually love this method because it helps you to actually keep an eye on all the variables and get them every time. No matter in what component you are, you can actually grab hold of whatever variable you are passing from one component. If you are joining for the first time, I do recommend you subscribe to my channel, and also let me know if you have any challenges. So in this case, I've set up a basic application. You can see right here, child1, child2, there is basic routing. So it's home component and child1 and child2 component, okay? So we want to send a variable from child 1 to child 2. Actually, once you send, it can be available in any component anywhere, okay? So what you'll need to do this, you'll need to create a service that is going to actually do the sending. So I'm going to create a new terminal. I'm going to say ng-gs and place the name of the service I want to use. So let me just call this sender. That's the name of the service. You can use any name you want. ng generate service, that's ng-gs sender, and it creates the service for us. How do I know? You can see it right here. So in this service, I'm going to create a variable that will hold whatever variable we want to send across component. We have to send it through this service to the other component. So I'm going to say, let's just call it variable 1. It's going to be public variable 1. It's going to be string. Of course, you can use anything, array, list, or numbers, or anything. Okay. So now, how do we then send a variable from child 1 to child 2 through this service? So let's go to child 1. In child 1, I have a variable. I'm going to call this variable from 1. So let me see, private from 1 equals hello from child 1. All right, so I want to send this variable across. And again, we need to use our router to route. So it's not, you can actually use links if you want. So, but now I'm going to just use a button. So let me just add, I've already told you that you can use a router here. So you need a router here, and let's say go to simply say router.navigate specify /child2. Okay, fine. So, but before I navigate, I'm going to simply add that variable in the service. So it means that I also need to wire in this service right here. So I'm going to say private service. Of course, the name is sender service as well. Okay, so I'm going to simply say service of variable 1 is equal to from 1. I think I need to use this here. So what this means is that this variable will be placed into the service, and then you navigate, and it's available in the service. Okay, so in child 2, you can just retrieve this variable and use it. Okay, so I'm going to child 2 now, and let's retrieve this variable and display it on the console. So I'm on child 2 now. I need to wire in the service here. Can give it the same name is okay. Private service, sender service, and I'm going to, on the init method, I'm going to just display this variable coming from child 1. I'm going to just display it in the console using console.log, and I'm going to say service dot service dot variable 1. All right. So this variable coming from child 1 now is available in child 2. How do we know? So I'm going to save everything. And if I go to child 1, so something is, so I need to add a button in child 1. So here, sorry, it's my mistake. Button type is equal to button. And the click should be go to 2, and it's going to be go to true. All right, so let's go back. All right, so now we are in, this is home. I'm going to home to child 1, and we want to send to child 2, and child 2 is expected to console.log that variable received from child 1. So I'm going to child 2 at this point, and you can see hello from child 1 displayed right here on the console. So this is how to send a variable using a service in between service between your component. This is great because you don't need to worry about what component is sending. It can be any component, but this service will be in between all these components, more or less like a ring topology where the service is it's not a ring, I mean a star topology where this service is in the middle and is connecting everything. So any service, any variable you want to send, simply put it right inside that service and it's available everywhere. So let's just do a little bit of recap. So I'm going to scroll up. So this is what we've learned in this tutorial. We've set up the Angular app. We've passed variable from parent to child. We also pass from child to parent using event emitter. We also use state variable. Then we use path parameters, and then we pass variables via a service. So these are the 5 ways to pass variables across components in Angular. And I'm happy and I think that this may have helped you. If so, please let me know. I remain Kind on the Tech Pro and I'm always there for you.